So this camera you're watching me on right now is $10,000. This camera you're watching me on right now is only $249. And by the end of this video, you'll see why this is actually a realistic replacement for DSLR when it comes to webcams and online meetings and such. So this is actually the third time we've taken a look at an Insta360 product. No, this is not the Insta360 product. This is the product we're talking about right here that theoretically can absolutely replace this in terms of convenience, convention, connectability, and all of that. See, look, when it comes to like professional live streaming, everyone feels like you've got to have this big old DSLR style camera. You've got to have your HDMI out to a capture card. You got to have some sort of a barrel plug or a power source plugged into your camera so it doesn't die. The camera itself is pretty unintelligent when it comes to features and such. You can install certain cameras, have camera controller apps you can put on your desktop or your laptop or whatever. It's just big and cumbersome. And the reason why people want to run big cameras for webcams and professional type of environment is because of the fact that they're trying to overcome the limitations that you typically find with small webcams. Look, as someone that started my channel with a webcam and a T2i, which looked terrible for the era, but anyway, I digress. Webcams are notoriously bad when it comes to handling low light, noise, auto white balancing, auto exposure, dealing with a lot of the colors that could be splashing off your screen while you're gaming, or even having background lighting, like we have blue lights behind me right now, just as sort of an example of how this camera handles the dynamic range of not just lighting, but the different colors taking place in the scene. It has become painfully obvious that a lot of webcam companies are desperately overcharging for their stuff. This is why we've been such big fans of Insta360's Link cameras. We took a look 4 years ago, I think it was, at the very first Link camera, which was very small versus today's. But what was cool about it is it has a motorized gimbal. It has auto tracking. You can move around in the scene. The camera will intelligently follow you. It's got gestures when it comes to controlling the camera, but it had other modes that were kind of neat depending on how you were going to use them. Say in a business environment, you could use whiteboard mode, which would automatically frame the whiteboard in the screen. It could even potentially follow the things that you're talking about on the board. It has what they call desktop view or desk mat view, which is where it points down at your desk if you're using it for, say, craft videos or craft live streaming. I've literally used that function at home when I was doing live stream Lego building, which is probably not something any of you have ever thought that you would see on my channel, but it's stuff I've done. I've also used it when I was during COVID, when I was doing my model building, because you guys know I love to build models and such. Everything in here is Legos, but I've got a lot of models that I've built that are scale models and very detailed. That's a very big Lego model up at the top. But anyway, that's not what this is about. It's the fact that I was able to actually use auto zoom and zoom in gestures and such to be able to show the very fine details of what I was working on. And the webcam was able to show it without it just being a big blocky mess. So Insta360 now is on their third version of the Link camera. Now, even though it says Link 2, technically it's the third one if it says Pro. So here's the difference though, that you'll see the C designation. The C designation means it doesn't have the motorized gimbal, which is what we have currently right now on the Link 2 Pro. And it cuts $50 off the price, by the way. So everything you're gonna see today in terms of visual quality, clarity, color enhancements, the features that are built into the app are all the same between both cameras. It's just one has the motorized gimbal and the tracking, the physical tracking, whereas the C does a little bit more, but digital tracking if you're punched in. So keep that in mind as we're talking moving forward. But this is the largest sensor that they have ever fit into a webcam. It is a 1/1.3-inch sensor. It is big when it comes to a webcam. The larger the sensor, the better it can handle high dynamic range, or HDR, and low light, which is really important when it comes to webcams. If you've ever watched anyone's webcam feed, one of two things are happening. They don't have proper lighting, so they're just a noisy mess because the sensor is extremely tiny and it just can't handle the low light coming into it. Remember, bigger sensor, more light, more detail, more exposure you can potentially get with less noise. Or they're blasting so much light at them, they're just flattening out the whole scene and it just looks like a super amateur mess. So that is where the Insta360 Link 2 Pro really comes in, specifically on that larger sensor. So we're gonna do some demonstration right now also of the features that are built into this, because it's more than just a webcam. It is actually like an entire mini studio with like a little digital cameraman operating the camera. So today, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand why this is obsolete by today's standards when stuff like this exists in the market. Okay, so one thing I want to point out is I'll be kind of going back and forth between the screen here. We are capturing this via OBS. So I want to point out this is not a native capture with a lot of the demonstration you're going to see. We will do some actual native capturing within the app. But there's two ways you can actually capture video when it comes to Insta360. You have what they call their virtual camera, which is all the post-processing effects. Like right now, if you look on this camera, I've got a little bit of a bokeh happening right here. It looks very natural. That's something you tend to not be able to get when it comes to webcams because the sensor's just not large enough. It doesn't have a fast enough sensor to be able to drop the f-stop, which is how you get that natural creamy bokeh. So it's actually doing it digitally, but it's doing it very well. You can see around the seat, it's doing a pretty good job at like cutting the background and my seat out. You can see my hair is kind of being separated from that bokeh pretty nicely. And for it doing digital, it's not too bad. If I go ahead and turn this off real quick, you can see right here on the right, this is where the menu setting is. If I just turn off the bokeh, there it is. You can see this is just direct being captured. You can see all my Lego back there. My Lego's back there. I like Legos. I don't know what to say. Anyway, moving on. When it comes to like business meetings and stuff now, and especially when it came to like the whole human malware, it's kind of funny the amount of people that were having to work from home and such and hosting meetings, and then they just didn't want to have to clean their offices, their home offices, if they're using their kitchen counter or whatever. The best way to get rid of the mess is just blur it. But that looks pretty unnatural as far as I'm concerned. It looks really bad. Like you can change the blur intensity right here. You have all the effects have a slider. So you can see we could just go with a slight blur that's kind of like more like maxed out bokeh, or you can just be like, boom, 100% blur, which I think is again, very unnatural. If we go to the bokeh effect right here, now you can see we get a pretty nice subtle blurring of the background. Like 100%, that's too much. That'd be like running like f1.8 on your camera. Right around 50% is where I think it looks natural. It does a pretty good job at cutting out around the chair. If there's a lot of detail happening around the edges though, and you're not actually using a green screen or anything like that, you can see as you move around, it can sort of potentially get a little bit artifacty. But if you're not just like moving around so much, you're just sitting here stationary in a meeting, it's not bad at all. Or you can do like even add your own effects right here. You have the plus key right here, which just will open up your browser. Your file browser where you can add other effects and such. But the plus sign allows you to change those backdrops where you can actually drop in your own images if you want. So look, I can just drop in this pretty neat glossy background. I'm like, okay, I've used this for thumbnails before. You can put that in. But one thing I didn't expect is you can actually drop in videos. So we've got what we dubbed the shilling curse. And look. So the fact that you can put a movie in there is really weird, and it just will loop. Obviously, which is kind of neat. So it has to be under 20 megabytes for a video file, and it has to be 1080p or smaller for an image. Just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna go ahead and just click off of that. And yeah, so I'm gonna go back to the bokeh background because I think that's really nice. Now, if you're running the gimbaled version here, if we go and look at this right here, if I click on the screen, with my mouse, I can literally move this thing around. Like, check this out. The gimbal is really nice, and I've showed this a million times in the past. You can set positions. So let's say this is like, this is fully zoomed out. I can, if I want now, click the plus right here. It's now saved that position, and then we can rename this position. I'll just call it, I don't know, talking head 1, right? Yes, confirm. Now let's say I wanted to, like, I don't know, show off my RSR Porsche, right? We also would need to remove the effect right there. But now I can hit new position there, and I could just be like, rename Porsche. Boom. So click here, boom. And you notice it turned the bokeh back on. And then if I click the new position, boom, it turned the bokeh off and it refocused. So the cool thing is it remembers the actual settings too. And so to click between them, you just click the one that you want. Now the cool thing is you can have different zooms and such. So using the mouse wheel, I'll kind of show you right here, using the mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out on, that's an actual digital zoom, I want to point out. It's not, and it's so convincing. I actually thought it was a physical zoom before, but no, it is a digital zoom, but it gives you an opportunity to then more or less cut out some of the sides you don't want. You can get a pretty decent cropping, put yourself on the upper third or something like that. And then, yeah, you have all your other intensities. Let's just say I'm gonna go full bokeh on that one. Because if I'm zoomed in that far, and it's like, let's say a closer focal length, focused on me, the background should be more blurry. So I just went ahead and bumped up the bokeh on that, and I'll just save that right there as rename. We'll just call this talking close up. So now you just click the ones you want to go to. So there's the normal talking head. Here is the close up with the additional bokeh. There's the Porsche. And the cool thing is you can actually customize in the settings the motor speed. But yeah, as Phil is showing that right there, you can see the camera just doing its thing. And that's already where it separates this from any other webcam or a DSLR. I mean, yes, there are motorized gimbals you could get for a DSLR, but now we're talking thousands upon thousands of dollars for this setup that you really don't need. Now look, some of you might disagree. My wife might disagree. I am not the prettiest thing to look at. What I make up for in appearance, I think I make up for with brains-ish, okay? But Insta360 has a fix for that. If I come over here to these different filters, right? There's portrait. It's gonna kind of just adjust the lighting. You'll notice sometimes when you select something, it kind of goes bright and then it sort of like measures the scene and then brings things back down. So what portrait did is it kind of softened my skin a little bit. You see, I'm 45 years old, I got skin spots. I have a lot of sin spots, but I got skin spots. Some of these red marks are not skin blemishes as much as they're defects I put in my own skin. Ow, ow. Oh. So you can see right there, if I go back to off, it's gonna look a little, there, see my skin looks a little bit more harsh, a little bit more skinny, if you will. Portrait, as it processes it, really makes things look a lot softer, as you can see it coming in. Daylight just compensates for what it believes would be a bright, like let's say you're in a coffee shop and it's got all these exposed windows to outside. It's gonna help expose for that sunlight. Not much changed here because we're kind of recreating the sun with our lighting properly. If we go to Vintage 1, it's gonna look more like an old vintage camera. See a little bit more over contrast, a little bit sharper. Vintage 2 would be a little bit more of like a sepia kind of a deal. See, everything looks a little warmer. Actually, I kind of like that it looks, but everything looks a little warmer. I'm not gonna lie, I like the way Vintage 2 looks a lot, actually. Anyway, moving on, there's neon. Yeah, I guess it kind of does look like there's neon lighting now in the room. And then clear, it's just a little bit more of a slightly washed out look, more of a neutral. But anyway, we'll just go back to filter off. But if we were to actually switch this from 4K 30, by the way, recording modes, you have 4K 30 and you have 25 and 24 FPS. You have 1080p, which will do 60, 50, 30, 25, and 24. And then 720p, which would do the same 60, 50, 30, 25, and 4. But in 1080p, you get some additional filters and modes available to you. So if we were to now say, I don't know, let's go portrait, let's soften me up a little bit. But let's just say, you know, I'm doing a Zoom business interview and I just really want to look my best. Look at that, look at the contouring. I got some contour right there. I got just a real nice subtle makeup around my eyes, the lips.
Do it into this camera for comparison.
Cheeks. And then we can also play with the intensity. That's really intense right there. Like if I just want to back that off a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, at 12% intensity, I'd date me.
That's the thumbnail right there.
Okay, so there's also other modes here. So there's Berry. It's even more subtle, but look. Oh my gosh, my eyes. It changed my eye color. Yeah, that's really intense. Look at my eyes, they're green now. It changed my eye color. So if I bring down the intensity, because I have like aqua colored eyes, it changed my eye color. We have Peach, which is very like, ooh, now my eyes, Phil, look at my eyes now. So here's Coral, which is gonna bronze my skin a little bit, I think. Ooh, not gonna lie. That's really intense though. There we go. Well, that's nice and subtle. Now here's the thing. We can also add beautification on top of makeup. This is just makeup. So we're gonna go back to, what's fresh look like? Why are my lips orange? Looks like I ate Cheetos. So rose, coupled with soft skin.
I can't take it seriously whenever I look at the screen.
Oh, that's terrifying. Well, I think you get the gist. Bring me back to normal. Why isn't that bringing me back to normal? There we go. Oh, ew. I want to turn it back on now. Ew. So, the bar. The morning after. Ew. Sorry, babe. Okay, so I don't use any of that stuff. That stuff exists in my current Link. So at home, I'm still using the Link 1. The Link 1 non-C, because they had a C also. And all these features exist there too, but they just are a little bit better now. So when it comes down to image quality though, this is where most webcams, like you get these sliders, but they're a hot mess. Like they don't work very well. So here you actually, like we have HDR. I'm not running HDR right now because as you can see, it extremely brightens the scene for a minute. Remember, it pushes the range of the highlights higher and it pushes the range of the lowlights lower. So where you normally would be like maybe in like a normal 8 stops of dynamic range, it pushes it out to, I don't know, 13 or 15 or something like that, I forget. But because I don't have like a bright window or anything behind me, like, so say I had a window that was like to outside, to compensate for me properly, outside would be like blown out, just it'd be like a white mess. But with HDR, you could actually have it properly exposed outside and inside. Because I'm not, like the scene doesn't look any better right now with HDR on because of where I'm at, there's not enough range of lighting or anything in the scene for it to even need that much dynamic range. So I personally feel like HDR off in this environment, see it starts low, now it's gonna start compensating for the low light. I think it does a really good job. Now auto white balance, this is right now with the auto white balancing, in my opinion, it's a bit too green. I would much rather just control my own white balance, and here you can plug in like what you want the white center point essentially to be. So we have 5500K lighting right here, and that's what that's set to. I'm pretty happy with that. You can also have exposure compensation. Let's say it's just kind of overexposing. You can actually bring down the stops of exposure in like 0.3 increments right here with minus EV or plus EV. If it's a little dark, you can raise it. Keep in mind, if the scene is really underlit and you raise that, you're gonna raise the noise level too. So you might get noise in that instance. But right now, as you can see in this scene, like you can even see the detail on this hair on my shirt right here. On a black shirt, that is not looking very noisy, even in this image. Now these are all kind of the default settings here. Contrast at 50, brightness at 60, saturation at 48, sharpness at 24, and then anti-flicker, this is just based on your region. So in the US, everything operates at 60 Hertz on our power system here. In the UK and other parts of Europe, I believe it's 50. So you got 50 Hertz here. That can just help with lighting flicker and stuff in the background if you're dealing with incandescent lights or even fluorescents operate at those frequencies. That's what helps with like any of those moving lighting, flickers in video. So people have asked me like, what does the anti-flicker mean? It has to do specifically with lighting frequencies. Anyway, moving on, I think it looks really, really good personally, even at the 1080p. I don't even think 4K is all that necessary, but it's a nice to have. So even at 4K, you can see things are just a little sharper, but it's really impressive what it can do. Now let's talk about focus. It's also important to note we are now recording the webcam through the Insta360 controller app. It is not being captured by OBS as like, we're just capturing the screen. So this is an actual recording being handled by Insta360's app. But how many times you've been to a live stream and someone's like, hey, look at this thing, and then focus, and it's just this big blurry mess, right? Now the cool thing is right here, it's got a pretty close focal range. So or focal distance. So I'll just take my little SD card right here and hold it up. You can see right there, we got, probably about 6 inches worth of throw, but here's the cool part. It is intelligent enough to know right now, I want you to focus on this thing I'm holding. And even though my face is in view, it's going, oh, clearly the person wants me to focus on this, and it's not focusing on my face because autofocus is on. But as soon as I move it out of camera, it does a nice slow focus rack. Not like a zzz, like it's hunting, it just was a nice slow focus rack. So we'll do that again, put the thing up in front of the camera, look at that, nice slow focus. That's about the minimum focus length right there. Come back to me, and then go back to it. It's just really, really natural. It's really good. So I wanted to point that out because we've seen like autofocuses on camera too, where the person's like, I gotta cover my face. How can I do this without showing my face? Because face detect is a good thing. But it's more intelligent in the Insta360 software where it knows the difference between focus on the thing I'm sticking in front of you, right? So here's the thing, I'll cover my face with it and I'll uncover my face. Nothing happens, nothing changes. Even up way over here on the side. Okay, if I go way out of the center, then it comes back to me. But look, as soon as I enter the center, it knows. It knows. So yeah, autofocus is pretty cool. I've had so many different webcams over the years, and even cameras that swear like industry largest sensor and best low light capabilities and for the low price of $300, and they're still junk. So this is why I have been exclusively using Insta360 now for ever since we got the first one, and I think that was back in like 2020? Somewhere around there. I've been using Insta360 exclusively for webcams for at least 5 years, maybe more. Okay, let's talk about gesture control. Gesture control is in my opinion, not that useful if you're sitting at the desk, but it is useful if you're, say, doing whiteboard presentation, or you're using it as some sort of a conference camera. Now, although Insta360 does sell 360-degree conference room cameras, which are pretty neat, and it can automatically detect who's talking and switch to that person's view, and it won't like gimbal around, it actually will just digitally choose that part of the camera. It's pretty cool, different video, different time. But let's say you're across the room, you're doing, a lot of live streamers will do things like, hey, I'm cooking in the kitchen. You know, I'm gonna take you guys along for the cooking ride. And having a stationary camera is extremely boring. So before we go to gestures, let's go ahead and talk about, and I know I started with gestures, let's go ahead and start with like auto tracking. So you can see right here at the bottom, it's called AI auto tracking. If I click that, it's now gonna automatically identify and start following me. I'm also know that auto tracking is on because the green recording light, the ring around the camera switches to blue. So that's something that's new, because in the past, it just automatically would stay green and follow you around. But if I come over here so that Phil can actually see the front of the camera, it switches to like this teal blue color so that I now know it's tracking. But look at that, it's tracking me all around the room. And it will intelligently zoom, right? Look at this. Hey, Phil. And it's gonna follow my face. Like I can't get away from it. Anyway, yeah, so you can see now if you were trying to use this as some sort of like, okay, so today we're gonna talk about this camera and blah, 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 and I'm moving around, it's gonna follow me. Now the cool thing is you can control some of the motor speed. There is motor speed control, so it could be a little slower, a little more natural, rather than it feeling like it's trying real hard to follow me all around. You can also, if you turn off the auto tracking, you can use gesture control too. So that's where the little hand is right here for gesture. And you have, if you make a palm, you can automatically make it do AI tracking. If you do what looks like an L7 weenie sign, you can also control the zoom. So watch, I'll be like, boom, auto track. It flashed at me, and now it's following me. Right? And I could be like, whoa, stop auto tracking. And it turns it off. I could be like, zoom in, zoom out. Boom, follow me right there. So you could zoom in. There we go. My hand was off screen, so it can zoom in and auto track. So anyway, you get the idea. Let's go and zoom that back out, shall we? Wait, it's gotta be in screen, there we go. Ah, that's in, out, there we go. So literally it's just an L shape with your fingers, and up is in and down is out. So anyway, pretty neat. In my opinion, that you can turn that stuff on and on, or on and off. You can also do whiteboard mode with 2 fingers, like a peace sign. But again, we don't have a whiteboard set up to be able to demonstrate any of that. I'm gonna go back to my talking head position. Boom, there we go. I can go to my tighter talking head position. See how simple it is? When I say this is so much more than a webcam, I don't know how else to really say it without demonstrating it. I mean, show me a webcam or a DSLR that can do any of that stuff. Now, the cool thing is you don't have to use the app like this to do any of those controls. You can have the app open to use all those controls, but you can output the camera, obviously, to any capture software that you want. So whether it be OBS or Zoom or any of that stuff, when the other program is controlling or accessing the camera, you'll get a no preview available here, but all of the controls will stay up and open. So you could still do the gestures and all that sort of stuff when you're live streaming. I have been, like I said, using Insta360 now for over 5 years. Guitar streams, model building streams, Lego building streams, gaming streams, have cool things. I've even had points set automatically for every time in my man cave thing gaming room at home. People are like, what's that on the wall? And I could be like, oh, that's this, and click the button, or have a hotkey set up on, I have a hotkey actually set up on my Elgato Stream Deck, where I can just push the button where I have a shortcut to those positions to be like, oh, that's my Lego Venador thing, and it just zooms in, and people are like, how the hell did you just do that? Like, people are freaked out every time they see it still. And then people ask about my computer. I have it swing around and show my computer and then swing back to me. Like, this is such cool stuff. And the cool part is the fact that they've been able to continue to improve the product with a bigger sensor, better software, and still lowered the price, even in today's crazy market. So ask yourself how a product went from 300 bucks when it was first edition to making all of these improvements along the way and are still costing $50 cheaper than when it was new, or all the way down to $150 for the Link 2C Non-Pro, where you get everything we just showed you minus the 1/1.3 sensor. It's a little bit smaller sensor. Last thing we need to talk about here is audio quality. Okay, on-camera audio. Even our $10,000 FX6 setup, we don't use on-camera audio. There's a reason for that. There's never going to be a replacement for getting a microphone that is close to the source of the volume. Otherwise, the farther away, or the source of the sound, the farther away it is, the more room tone it's going to pick up. Now, we are in about a 15-foot by 12-foot office right here. A lot of flat surfaces. I'm talking directly at a flat panel monitor. Even though they have a built-in parabolic lens on top right here, that ring is also surrounding the actual parabolic microphone. Now, parabolic microphone means it's directional. It's gonna pick up sound in a very directional pattern. Don't confuse it with like a shotgun mic or something like that, which is a hypercardioid type of design. It is a parabolic mic, which is trying to pick up things in a cone shape directly in front of it. They do have AI processing. They do have some voice enhancement stuff built into the software. Now, right now, we're not in a noisy environment, but there are other presets in here that would allow you to, if I'm in a coffee shop right now, and there's a bunch of people talking around me, it'll be able to intelligently identify my voice and start to do some AI processing on the background noise to kind of quiet a lot of that down. Same thing with music detect. It can even detect music and remove the music entirely, or nearly entirely, which is really good if you're doing live streaming somewhere where you might have copyrighted music playing around you. Nice features to have. I'm gonna talk today specifically about using it for like a conference microphone. I have been using, ever since the Link 2 came out, which uses essentially the same microphone that's on the Link 2 Pro, I've been only using the webcam for my conferences. And I continued to ask people like, hey, how does my audio sound? Does it sound okay? And people are like, yeah, I can hear you fine. Now, as we switch to it right now, you can hear as I'm talking, yes, there is room tone, there is reverb. It is still a good almost 3 feet away from me, which is close to a meter away from me. That is not ideal. But the fact is, it's enough to get me by. I don't like wearing headsets. I don't want to have a desk mounted microphone. I don't want a microphone sitting on my desk. It allows me to be able to have my meetings, have my talks with either my team or other vendors and brands and such, where I can get through the meeting and they're not complaining about poor quality audio, and I'm not having to stick a headset on my head or have a microphone outside of the webcam. Prior to the Link 2, that was not possible as far as I'm concerned. Now, yeah, it's never gonna sound as good as this Electrosonic wireless, analog wireless professional microphone that costs about $2,800, right? But this still is able to get the job done. So when it comes to being able to reject the room tone and other people talking and music and stuff, is it has to have several microphones. So if you look on the top right here, you see we've got this concave dish. It's like the parabolic. We've got the little microphone hole in the middle, but on the top, that's where you actually have a pretty decent sized microphone right there. And they're picking up from different directions. You've got this kind of not really a 360, but like a solid 180 pickup pattern. You have the actual concave dish. You've got the little microphone in the middle. So it's allowing it to really be able to get a lot of sound data to know what it's listening for and to isolate your voice and enhance it. So let's talk about some of those audio enhancements real quick. So right now I'm set to original. It says suitable for scenarios requiring high fidelity audio, capture surrounding sound without applying noise reduction, preserving the original audio as accurately as possible, which is why you can hear this hand clap. If I set it to focus, best for noisy environments such as workstations or cafes, features a more focused pickup range, prioritizing and enhancing voices within proximity of 1 meter in front of the device, and automatically suppresses environmental noise and other voices. So if I select that now, and then we do the hand clap, it's not picking it up. It's because it's actually that quickly able to say, hey, that's a peak of some sort. That is not his voice. Now, as I'm talking and clapping, you can probably hear it just fine because it's doing still some post-processing on it, but it's still capturing only my voice and enhancing that. Now, wide says for single and multi-person meetings or live streaming, captures and enhances all voices in front of the device. So that would be bad. If you were in a coffee shop or something and some loudmouth is over here talking next to you, it's going to be enhancing their voice as well. And then standard, which is subtle, are suitable for general use, captures surrounding audio, enhances and emphasizes voices, and slightly reduces background noise. So let's see what happens to the hand clap with standard. It's still gone, but this is not how my voice sounds with standard. So here's what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to do just a quick audio sample of each one of those so you can hear the difference. So this is standard. The quick brown fox jumped over the quick red fox jumped over the lazy brown dog. Here's wide. The quick red fox jumped over the lazy brown dog. Here's focus, which is what I would want to use if I was in a loud environment, even though we're not in a loud environment. The quick red fox jumped over the lazy brown dog. And then here's the original. The quick red fox jumped over the lazy brown dog. So you can kind of hear by listening to those and which you think is better and more suitable. I think standard's probably best. Think of original as unprocessed or off. So you can kind of tailor that to whatever you think is best. Now I want to say this though. In my meetings though, I didn't realize I had the setting on to enhance all voices. So what was happening was it was picking up the other people speaking, even though Zoom and Google Meets and all that has a voice cancellation feature where it knows what voices are being spoken and it avoids playing that back through your own audio. It was doing it very well. It was playing the audio back very well to people. I didn't realize that setting was on, and that was the only issue and complaint I ever had in meetings about this microphone, but that was an enhancement feature. Windows was also set to enhance voices, so it was like double enhancing. Once I turned those off, things have been a whole lot better. But anyway, I could easily make this an 1.5 hour long video, or you can look at the hours and hours of live streaming I've ever had on the first link. I think it's time to change. I think it's time for me to put the 2 Pro in my studio finally. I love the gimbal feature, but again, you can save $50 by not doing the gimbal if you want it. So the Link 2 Pro, which is on here, with the gimbal is $249. The original price of the Link 2, as I said earlier in this video, was $299. So when the Link 2 came out versus the original Link, it went from $299 to $249 with the gimbal. They've maintained that same pricing with the Pro with the larger sensor. In today's silicon environment, that's kind of nuts. So for $249, you get this exact one right here with the enhanced bigger sensor, the better audio, as well as the gimbal. Or you can do $199 for the Pro non-gimbal. If you're like, okay, I don't have that much to spend, but I still want a lot of these features, the Link 2 non-Pro is still available at $199 for the gimbal, or the non-gimbal for $149. That's kind of crazy. If you just do some due diligence and do some research of what like other manufacturers of webcams are charging for an inferior product, you'll find this pricing is actually really competitive, and it encroaches on the capabilities of a DSLR set up as a webcam, because don't forget, you can have the crispiest, butteriest camera input, but you're still dealing with compression of YouTube live streaming and Twitch, which cuts it down to like 5 megabits usually. So you're losing so much of that cost and price and capability before you ever get to the end viewer. So that's why stuff like this is amazing. It's one USB-C cable, one controller app, and it works pretty much flawlessly in all of the programs we've ever had to use it. Been using it exclusively for 5 years plus. I know exactly when we put it up, the very first time we looked at this, but there's a reason why I keep coming back and showing the revisions when they come out, because I think Insta360 is doing it right when it comes to webcams. And like I said, if you look at their website, if you follow automotive content, I guarantee you, everyone is running Insta360 360 cameras, and there's a reason for that. But now they've got the conference room cameras, they've got like security type cameras, obviously they've got webcams. They truly are like becoming a global like giant when it comes to small sensors and what they're able to do with them. All right, guys, you'll find all the links to the Insta360 stuff down below. Again, a huge thanks to Insta360 for allowing us to take a look at this new product. I know it's not new, but we like to use things for a while before we do this content. We want to make sure we know the ins and outs. And on this one here, a 1/1.3 inch sensor, that's You're not going to find a bigger webcam sensor. This is the biggest one on the market right now without going into a discrete camera with a bulky setup and a capture card and all of that, which just induces more potential points of failure or configuration issues along the way. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you bought Insta360 products or an older webcam, it's important for you guys to put down below what your experience has been like for other potential consumers and buyers to buy or hear about experiences that are not through us. It's more important for you guys to sound off so people can learn from your experiences. We're just one set of eyes on this, but I think there's a reason why they're as popular as they are in all of their different camera categories. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, we'll see you in the next one.